Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of TheTotalScreen.com. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today it is our 50th episode, which means we are going to be doing another segment of Advocates of Great Entertainment. This one is called No More Regrets, and we're going to be talking about some things that we have wanted to watch and haven't gotten around to. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in that segment, which is our main segment for this week. We also have some news stories to go over. Netflix had their big Geeked week. Some other trailers came out. Other stuff was going on. And we have some stuff to talk about that's coming up on the horizon in the next week or so. Let's kick things off with On Beat. On Beat. On Beat is, of course, our news segment. This week, we're kicking off our news with Todd Philips has completed his script for the Joker sequel. I believe this is pronounced Joker Folie à Deux. It means shared madness. That's basically all we have to go on. People are making theories, but it's all based on just the title.
Yeah, so script exists. I don't know if Warner Brothers greenlit this. Joaquin Phoenix is currently not signed on to this. So
he's reading the script as we speak.
Looks like this is really early in development. So
yeah, the script is complete. Joaquin Phoenix is reading it, and he's in negotiations as he's reading it.
More news to follow.
Basically, if Joaquin Phoenix signs on, it's happening. Like that Joker made $1 billion for Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I know.
If Joaquin Phoenix signs on, it's greenlit. It's pretty obvious. Our next news story, J.J. Abrams had a series in development at HBO called Demimonde. This was a big deal. When it was going around at HBO, executives at HBO were saying that it was the best script they'd ever read. There was a huge bidding war between Apple and HBO to acquire this because it was just considered to be this is going to be a huge show.
Yeah.
Well, since that happened, Warner Brothers Discovery happened. As we've reported over the last couple of weeks, seems like every week we've been talking about some cut that Warner Brothers Discovery has made. And this next one is that Demimonde is no longer moving forward to HBO. Who knows? Maybe it'll go forward somewhere else. It had a very significant budget, and that's basically what's being considered the reason this was cut. But also, Warner Brothers Discovery is trying to get out of the deal they made with J.J. Abrams after Demimonde, Demimonde was considered the reason why J.J. Abrams got this huge deal at HBO. And so they're just trying to get out of the JJ game, it looks like, entirely. This is budget cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of crazy though, because this is to have a project this prestigious and big and in demand and anticipated, and then they're just going to cut it. It's just, even with a big budget, it seems like you might be missing your next Game of Thrones there, HBO.
Doubt it.
I just mean this had that buzz. This had more buzz than Game of Thrones had going into it.
Yeah, this has buzz, but I don't know if J.J. Abrams really has the capacity to deliver.
He's not running it, he's producing it, but...
it's Apple's turn now. It's Apple's chance to come and swoop it up if they want to.
I don't even know if they can, because there was a deal signed, so, I don't know if the deal has a penalty, if it frees it back up, the rights back up to JJ to do something else with, or we don't really know the details of how that's going to work, so this could just be gone, period. Or it could be picked up by Apple, or it could be picked up by somebody else who's since come into the game, because this was set up a while ago, and since then we've had other players enter the streaming game. But it's just kind of interesting and weird. This was a huge deal when all this stuff was announced, when the deal was made for J.J. Abrams and everything, and now it's all closing out, which is just kind of weird. I think this is the real capstone of all the Warner Brothers Discovery cuts that have been happening. Our next news story, Fargo season 5 has been confirmed, and they've cast Jon Hamm, Juno Temple, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. And it's going to be set in 2019. All of the Fargo seasons, they're kind of self-contained stories, but there's like a continuity between them too. But they always take place like in different years. Like the first one I think was like in the 1990s, I think maybe. And then they went to like the 70s, and then they went to like the early 2000s. It's just kind of always jumps around to different time periods and fleshes out like another aspect of it. This is by far the most recent time period. 2019 being right before, the global pandemic. I mean, COVID-19 is named COVID-19 because it was discovered in 2019, So I wonder if that's kind of the significant thing that the show's going to build towards, that they're going to have the characters, not the show's going to be about lockdown, but like it's going to be like that pressing thing that we know is coming as the show develops. I don't know. Be interesting to see what they do, but Fargo is always a good show, so.
Yeah, Fargo is a good show. It's a good cast, so it'll be cool to see.
Our next news story, Ghostbusters, the animated series in development at Netflix from Jason Reitman. Jason Reitman is, of course, the son of Ivan Reitman, the creator of Ghostbusters, and our director of Ghostbusters. I guess he co-created it kind of with some of the cast, right?
I don't know. That's getting into the weeds here. Yeah.
Anyways, Jason Reitman also did the recent Ghostbusters Afterlife movie that came out last year. So, yeah, another Ghostbusters animated series. You mentioned before we started you were a big fan of the real Ghostbusters, which was back in the day. There was a Ghostbusters series that they had to like use the name Real Ghostbusters when they actually did the one based on the story because of some kind of like a name rights bullshit.
So yeah, so in the 70s there was a cartoon actually based off a live action show from the 60s called Ghostbusters. And I guess it wasn't a problem for the movie, but like when they did the animated series, I had to call it the Real Ghostbusters to differentiate that because he didn't want to confuse it with the Ghostbusters. I had like these two guys and a gorilla. I don't know. I remember like when I was a kid seeing like a Ghostbusters like VHS at the video store and being like super confused by it. Like, what the hell is this thing calling itself Ghostbusters? It was like...
And Real Ghostbusters, despite the weird hair of Egon's weird hair, and it was a really fun show. I actually really enjoyed it too. You mentioned that you were a big fan of it. I was a big fan of it as well. I have like distinct memories of watching certain episodes. Like I remember watching an episode at a family friend's house, and like my parents coming to pick me up, or like saying that they were going to leave or something. Like when it was in the middle of the episode, and I was like distraught that I couldn't finish the episode. It's such a weird memory. It's such a meaningless memory. But it's like, I have it, and it's connected directly to that series.
So we don't have any details on this whatsoever. So it's hard to know how it'll turn up. It has a tough act to follow. That's all.
I wonder if it's going to tie into what they did with Afterlife.
Maybe.
And kind of focusing on that. I don't know. But there's going to be another Ghostbusters movie as well that follows after that. Next up, Sony had their State of Play event.
These are usually like super boring because like it's usually like indie games and stuff I don't care about. But man, they brought out some big guns for this one. First of all, they finally like officially revealed Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's real. It's happening. It's coming next year, next March. They didn't show any gameplay. That's the thing. Like they showed like a bunch of clips, but they didn't show any gameplay or how it plays.
Presumably, you know what I thought was weird?
What?
Was that I think the big deal about Resident Evil 4, not from its first announcement, but from its like when they did the actual real kind of trailer announcement for that game, where they actually showed the way the game played and stuff. The big shocking thing about that was like everything was at like daytime. And it was like weird that never happened. And then this trailer comes out for the remake, everything's at nighttime.
Yeah, everything's dark now.
I'm like, this doesn't look like Resident Evil 4 to me,
Because it's not daytime?
It's just like, it was such an aesthetic part of what Resident Evil 4 was, that they were doing horror in daytime, which was like kind of not really done. And like, I'm not a Resident Evil fan, but like, I thought that was such a like a iconic moment when Resident Evil 4 launched, or like when the gameplay trailer launched for that it was so focused on daytime, and then this trailer comes out and it's all nighttime. There's not a speck of day in the whole thing.
And Capcom was not done with this State of Play. They also fully revealed Street Fighter VI. Street Fighter VI had been announced previously, but this was the full reveal, including gameplay.
And they announced their audiences. They said, if you didn't think we could make Street Fighter look really atrociously bad graphically, We're going to prove you wrong.
I don't think it looked horrible, but it did look like a step down from Street Fighter V aesthetic wise.
It's like bloom lighting everywhere, character designs ruined.
What really interested me was the fact that it looks like this is going to be a fully featured product from the beginning. Street Fighter V really launched bare bones and then depended on DLC to fill out its content.
But it seemed like Street Fighter V was flirting with the idea of games as a service.
Yes, it was. And so this looks like it's going to have some beefy content. One thing that caught my interest the most is the World Tour mode, which they weren't talking about, but it looks like you get to run around a free roaming metro city and you get to initiate battles with people. It also looked like there was some beat 'em up elements within the actual city, which I'm like, okay, that's cool.
If it's done well.
Yeah, if it's done well. Capcom saying that's the main story mode of the game. That's a single player story mode. Then there's the battle hub, which looks to just be an online player lobby, but Capcom's also hinting there's more to that as well. Capcom says they're going to discuss those two modes in further detail at a later date. And then they showed some characters, Ryu, Chun-Li, the new guy from Street Fighter VI, Street Fighter V.
That iconic character.
I think.
The new guy from.
I think his name is Luke.
Yeah.
And there was also another new character. It looks good. I'm more positive on this than I thought I would be.
Just give me another Street Fighter 2. I don't care about these.
And then Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 looked really cool. I can't wait to get my hands on it. A lot of people are bemoaning the death of turn-based battle systems in Final Fantasy. I mean, that's kind of been a thing for a while now. I'm not really surprised by that. I'm not really shocked by that.
I was intrigued by the first trailer for this game, and this one I basically lost all interest the second I saw this one.
It looks like now you can have your summons battle each other, which is kind of okay. That's interesting.
I thought that was really boring. That's where I completely lost interest. I'm like, what is this? This isn't Final Fantasy. This isn't. What kind of bullshit is this? This is like Monster Hunter now or something. It's like, what the hell?
Monster Hunter. It's not even anything close. But yeah.
That was Sony's State of Play. Next up, we have a bunch of trailers that came out for Netflix's Geeked Week. We've cut it down, way down, because there were 30-something trailers to a few key ones. First up, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. There's not too much to say. It was mostly teaser. It announced a pretty hefty cast. It's an anthology series, and it's Guillermo del Toro being attached as that's the real point, That's what made it interesting. But yeah, that looks good. One Piece. This kind of blew me away a bit. I still don't know what I expect from this series, because I just think that when you try to replicate anime in live action, especially something as stylistic as One Piece, and you're trying to do it straight up, it feels like I just can't find a spot in my brain that understands that working. But they showed set pieces for this, and by God, massive real sets that they built, ships and stuff, straight up vessels that they built that look straight out of the manga. It's absolutely insane. I can't even believe it that they did this. It's the amount of money and time that must have gone into building those is just absurd. So it makes me more curious about what this show's going to be like, because if they're putting in that much into these sets, then, either they plan on eventually turning it into a theme park or they just have, a lot of budget and some serious work they're going to be putting into this.
I mean, it's positive, right? I'm going to have to see the completed product, but the sets look good. If nothing else ends up looking good, those sets will look good.
Just tow all the sets into it and make a theme park out of them if the series doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up, we have the Sandman. We got our first kind of real kind of trailer, I guess, for that.
Yeah, looks really cool. Looks really interesting. Looks Sandman-y.
I think it looks gorgeous. I think
it looks gorgeous. Yeah,
the casting looks pretty on point to me. What's interesting is that you have Joanna Constantine is in this,
who is not John Constantine, by the way.
No, it's not a gender flip John Constantine. It's in the comics, it's supposed to be his ancestor or something.
Right. Yes.
But it looks pretty modern, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing because I in the comics, it's his ancestor. She's in the 1700s or something, and Dream visits her in that time period. She's not in the modern day in the comics, as far as I'm aware, so I'm not sure what they're doing with that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but this is a character is an important character within the Sandman comics. That's not them going woke, as a bunch of people have been complaining about with some of the other castings and stuff. This is like literally this character. The only thing weird is that it seems to be in the wrong era for that character. That's the only kind of weird thing about this, about her being in it. But it's Jenna Coleman, I believe, that's playing her, and she's fantastic. So it looks good. I think the casting on this whole thing has been pretty spot on. Like, I think Morpheus looks amazing.
Yes, he does. Morpheus looks fantastic. It looks great to me. I don't know. Like, I'll watch it.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. I mean, it's just...
kind of want to, like, go back and reread, like, the Sandman stuff to jog my memory. Yeah, because it's been a while and I forgot, like, all of that crap.
Next up, we have The Gray Man. We had a trailer for this before. This is the next movie from the Russo brothers.
This is a spy thriller starring Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling. Yeah,
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
This looks from the clip that they released in Geek Week. Like, it gave me serious, like, I knew the Russos were involved, but I didn't know they were directing. And after I watched the clip, I was like, okay, this looks like a Russo film. Like, this looks like Winter Soldier, like the way the fight scenes progress.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Looks exactly like a Winter Soldier Civil War type movie, just without superheroes. And I was like, okay, now I'm like really interested. And I looked it up, and yes, they are indeed directing. They're not just producing it. So I'm excited about this. When I first heard about this and first started seeing pictures, I wasn't really that interested. Heard Russo brothers were involved. I thought they were just producing. Wasn't really all that interested. And then I saw this clip, and now I'm kind of on board. I'm like, I really love the Captain America movies and what the Russo brothers did.
Yeah, I saw like the first trailer, like, yeah, I was on board because it looked really cool, looked really fun. I was kind of like, God, like another spy movie. And then, like, as I was getting into it, I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is good. Then I learned it was the Russo brothers. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then lastly, for next week's Geek Week, and we're only covering the first 3 days because that's what's come out at the time that we're recording this. We're probably going to be talking about more Geek Week stuff tomorrow.
Next week. We're not recording tomorrow.
Next week. I mean, is Junji Ito Maniac. This is the Japanese Tales of the Macabre. If you don't know who Junji Ito is and you want to have nightmares for days, just search his name and then open up like an image tab in Google search, and you're going to see shit that's probably going to haunt you for the rest of your life.
First time I heard about Junji Ito or anything, I think it was an article in like Wizard magazine in the 90s, was like showing some of his stuff. I was like, oh, that's freaky. That's freaky as shit.
I want to see how this works out, though. This is an anthology series. It's a horror anthology series. But what makes me like curious about this is they tried to adapt Spiral. They tried to adapt it as a live action movie. They tried to adapt it as an anime. Neither really worked that well because it's so distinct to the kind of black and white manga look, you know?
Right, yeah.
There's imagery that just doesn't make sense when you put it in motion or something. It just doesn't work. Like, but when you see it in a picture, it's like haunting. And it just doesn't have the same impact when you have it moving in some kind of an animated scene or in a movie or something. So I'm just really curious how they're going to pull off his style in this, like if they're going to be able to do it justice or not. But yeah, I mean, it was a cool announcement, and I'm looking forward to seeing more about that. One thing I forgot to add to this list that I have to bring up, forgot to add it to the show notes, but I have to bring it up, is they finally showed a trailer and a clip for Cyberpunk 2077 Edge Runners.
Oh, the DLC?
No, not the DLC. It's the anime.
Oh, I didn't know they were even doing an anime.
Yeah, they're doing a Cyberpunk anime. They announced it like a long time, like before the game came out. But yeah, it's being done by Trigger, who's like a really great anime studio. If you don't know who they are, look it up. You know, they've done some amazing stuff. But like Kill la Kill, for example. It looks fantastic. The music's great. The setting is just, it put me right back in Night City. I actually really enjoyed the Cyberpunk game, and it really put me back in there. The trailer just kicks ass. It's just really well put together. I cannot wait for this. I'm super excited for that anime series on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving on to other trailers. These are trailers that were not part of Geek Week, but also just came out as well in the past week. We're going to start things off. Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, coming to Paramount Plus.
It's good to have them back, isn't it?
There's not too much to say. It's just a bunch of funny gags, you know, like, and I don't just want to repeat the gags and ruin it for people who haven't seen it or something.
No, but it
holds up. It's great.
It holds up. It was funny. I thought the trailer was hilarious. I can't wait to watch this.
I like that. Was it interdimensional version of Beavis and Butthead where they were like, haha, that's a funny joke, haha.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah, this is like the South Park specials where it's going to be like, this is a reason to subscribe to Paramount Plus for like a month and then unsubscribe when you're done.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, very cool. Next, we had a trailer for Bullet Train. We've had a trailer before, but we got a new one. Every time I see more footage of this, I just desperately want to watch this movie.
This movie looks so fun. I can't wait to watch it.
From the creators of Deadpool, of the movie Deadpool. I think it's the director of Deadpool 2, I think.
That's what they said.
Yeah, and then it's Brad Pitt, takes place in Japan on a bullet train. It's kind of got like a, what was that movie? It was Aces Wild or I can't remember. It's kind of got like that kind of vibe where it's just all these kind of over the top like assassins and criminals.
Yeah, all these characters like coming together, all these eccentric characters coming together.
On a bullet train.
Yeah. It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah. That's Will's movie poster quote.
Yes.
It's going to be a wild ride. William Roerich. And then lastly, we have Black Adam also coming to theaters.
I gotta give him credit. That trailer did look good. It does look like it's gonna be a good movie.
The last feature they put out that introduced the other characters and stuff really kind of made me lose a lot of interest in this. And then this trailer kind of put it back, I got interest back again.
Cause like this trailer, they had those characters in this trailer, but they worked in the trailer. I think like Dr. Fate was like one of the most interesting. Yeah, I don't know. And then The Rock is just being The Rock, which is fine.
Rock is Black Adam.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this has been a passion project for The Rock for a while. He's been trying to get this off the ground for years.
He was cast, like 10 years ago?
Yeah. He's also a producer on the film. Rock also stated recently that, as far as Black Adam is concerned, he's in it for the long haul. He's going to do the character and help flesh out the DC universe for as long as possible at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Shazam was one of the more fun DC universe movies, and Black Adam is directly tied to that character. I don't think they're going to have any involvement with Shazam in this movie or in the next Shazam movie, even maybe.
Yeah, I don't think, next Shazam movie is not going to have Black Adam. Shazam's not showing up in this, except for maybe a surprise
post-credit scene or something.
Yeah.
But this is somewhere eventually these two are going to meet up. It's going to be
because Black Adam is part of the Shazam family. He has the same power set. His powers come from the same source. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of those characters do have to collide at some point.
They were originally supposed to debut in the first movie. We're supposed to be the two of them together in that, and then they just kind of divided it all up. There were all these delays and changes in the schedule, and all the shakeup happened with the Snyderverse bullshit. And this is taking a long time to get here, but it's after I was disappointed with the last stuff they showed, I kind of got my excitement back a little bit here.
Yeah. And it's been a while since I've been excited by a DC film, so
yeah, besides something tied to James Gunn.
Yeah, or besides Batman. Yeah.
But that's it for our On Beat segment. Now we're going to move on to On the Horizon. On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff coming up in the next week or so. We're going to be kicking things off with Dark Winds, which is coming on Sunday, June 12th on AMC. This is kind of a supernatural, I think aliens related show, but it has to do with Native Americans, modern day Native Americans, on a reservation, and something's going down on the reservation. It's been really cryptically advertised in a way that's kind of compelling to me. So
strange things are afoot at the reservation.
Yes, the Reservation K.
Yeah, the Reservation K, yeah.
Next up, The Old Man is coming on Thursday, June 16th to FX. We reacted to the trailer a couple weeks ago, I think. But yeah, this is the Jeff Bridges one where it's got kind of a Taken vibe to it, or a John Wick vibe to it, I guess. But yeah, that's good. A good action series.
Yeah.
Then we have Players is coming on Thursday, June 16th.
Yeah.
This is from the creators of American Vandals.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. It could be funny.
It's about an esports team. If you told me the subject, everything about this show, I wouldn't be interested until you got to the part where you said from the creator of American Vandal.
Right.
Then I'm okay, now I'm interested. So we'll have to see what that is, if it's any good. But American Vandal was fantastic.
It is a subject that's ripe for comedy, so...
Mm-hmm. And look what American Vandal was able to do with the whole true crime thing and stuff,
Right, yeah, exactly.
Next up, we talked about with the first one, Dark Winds, we talked about Indian reservations. Well, here we have Rutherford Falls on Peacock, which is also heavily based on like an Indian reservation storyline. It's not entirely, but it's in a small town where there's like an Indian reservation. There's also like the white folk in town. Jason Sudeikis is the kind of lead in this, as the descendant of the Rutherford family, which is like what the town is named after and stuff. And there's a lot of like tension in the town between the Native Americans and the Rutherford family and what's going on there. But it's a comedy. It's Mike Schur. It's when people talked about, what's there to watch that's good on Peacock, this is one of the ones I would recommend. It's Rutherford Falls, and season 2 is coming on June 16th. Next up, we have Spiderhead. This is a movie coming to Netflix and theaters on Friday, June 17th. This is the one that stars Chris Hemsworth, and it's about like a prison running some kind of a voluntary experiment on inmates to see how they can manipulate their moods or their minds or something. It looks pretty interesting. There was actually a pretty cool clip that was dropped in all the Geek Week stuff at Netflix, but we kind of cut it because we just didn't have time with everything else we're doing. But
yeah, exactly.
It looks pretty good. Big cast, interesting subject matter. We'll have to see what they end up doing with it. And then lastly, also on Friday, June 17th, Lightyear comes to theaters.
Yes,
this is the Buzz Lightyear like movie origin story kind of thing about not the character in the Toy Stories movies, but like the legend that the character is based on or the toy.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like we don't really know, because it kind of feels weird that it's like a futuristic show and it's supposed to be the legend that inspires it.
So basically, obviously,
maybe not. I don't know.
Legend, no, like you're using the wrong words. Like, so basically think of it like this. In the Toy Story universe, Buzz Lightyear is a toy based on like a movie or maybe like a TV show about the character Buzz Lightyear. And then this is like that character
or,
that the toy is
or
based.
It's like the remake. This is the remake of the show that the toy was based on or something.
Right, yeah. Like this is like in universe, like a movie like kids are going to and seeing with their Buzz Lightyear figures. Like
it's weird to talk about. So, it's kind of like when you talk about Kill Bill.
It's like really super meta, right? So yeah.
It's kind of like when you talk about Kill Bill, like how Quentin Tarantino says that like Kill Bill is like a movie that would play in the universe of like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not that they take place in the same world, but like the characters in Pulp Fiction would go to the movie Kill Bill, Right,
yeah, exactly.
That's kind of like, it's weird to talk about, but that's it. That's it for On the Horizon. Now we're going to move on to our final segment, our anniversary segment for our 50th podcast, Advocates of Great Television, No More Regrets.
Advocates of Great Entertainment.
I'm here to kill chaos, bitches!
Do you want to start with your pick or mine first?
Let's start with your pick first.
So my pick is A Silent Voice. It's available on Netflix. This is an anime movie I've been meaning to watch for the longest time. I recounted a little bit of my story with this last week when I said that I was in like a boba shop and there was a clip of this playing and I was like, what the hell is this? This looks like fascinating. And I wanted to like watch more of it, but I left the shop and I couldn't hear anything going on in the shop anyways. So I looked it up based on just kind of things I saw. I'm like, guy falling out window anime, like I'm just like typing in random things like that. And it didn't take too long to find it where I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is the show. And that was years ago and I just never got around to watching it. And so for our No More Regrets episode of Advocates, I said, fuck it. I'm going to watch this finally.
All right. So what did you think now that you've finally seen it?
It was very emotional.
It is very emotional.
I was teared up through most of this movie.
It was like, it's very emotional. It's very, difficult subject matter.
Yeah, right? It's about bullying
because it deals with bullying and depression and suicidal, thoughts.
Some of the stuff it did with like the themes of like suicide and depression, like I think might be the best I've ever seen them done.
Yeah, it's not an easy watch.
Oh, not at all.
Times.
Yeah. It's very emotional. It's like I had tears in my eyes through most of it.
Yeah,
and it's just very strong, but very good too, with very likable characters. characters. And one of the things that I really dug about this movie is that, and this is something that I've kind of seen in anime sometimes, but I haven't really seen, and some Japanese like live action movies too, that I haven't really seen done nearly as well in other like mediums or from other countries, is redemption. I don't think I've ever seen redemption done as well as I've seen it done in some animes and stuff, where they like go into the idea of this guy who horribly bullies this girl when he's like young. And it turns against him, and then it cuts forward in time. You don't have to see everything that happened at the time. They show you enough to show how it turned against him. And then you see how he's become so depressed, so kind of closed off, and he reaches out to kind of like make good. And in the series, he's doing it because he's planning on killing himself. And it's kind of like, he says it almost like it's a test of courage. Like he doesn't know if he has the courage to kill himself. And so the thing that terrifies him the most is to reach out to this person that he horribly bullied and kind of like make amends and like apologize. And in doing so, in like reaching out to her, he kind of like achieves the thing that he wants to do before he can kill himself. And he says, I did this now I can kill myself. And he doesn't end up doing it because his mom interferes.
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of like throws his plans awry. And then he's lost at that point, because he had accepted death at that point. And he had done the very basic amount of making amends he could do. Like, he didn't really put in the work, you know?
No, he did not.
But he stepped up at least to like face his fear about it and to do that. And then now he's like stuck in this place, and he's kind of like in a spot of limbo. And in that time, just kind of small choices he makes here and there start opening the world up to him. And I love the way they visualized it with like people with X's over their faces.
Yeah.
These like people that he doesn't see, and how he helps this kid being bullied by basically like sacrificing his bike, because the kid, like, somebody's trying to steal this kid's bike.
Yeah.
And he's like,
and then he befriends this kid, and then like the X falls off of his face. Like, and
it's like a revelatory moment, you know?
And the whole thing with like the X's falling and appearing on people's faces kind of signifies, you know, like his emotional state. It's a visual signifier of like his depression, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can see there's moments where things seem to be going well, and then he has a certain encounter, and you just see all the X's pop back up on people's faces.
Yes.
And it's like him being isolated from the world again. And it's hard to watch, like you said, you know? Because it's like, ooh, God, that you can feel the pain of it. And
yes, you can.
Yeah, and it's such a good movie for everything it does there. Tell me a little bit about, I mean, you had no idea about anything about this when you went into it, right?
I did not even so much as look it up or read a synopsis or anything. I only knew the title, and I knew it was an anime. So I watched it, and it wasn't, I don't know what I was expecting. It was definitely not a light, breezy watch, that's for sure. Like we've already mentioned, it does deal with difficult subject matter. And yeah, I teared up. I cried through most of it, especially like the poor abuse, like that deaf girl, like suffers like constantly throughout the film. Is like, goddamn. Especially like, the one girl, like, just like,
Buena.
Yeah, never gets over it and just hurls abuse at her, like, constantly. It's like, Jesus. I was like, goddamn, like, girl, like, lay off.
There were a lot of like fascinating kind of characters in here.
Yeah.
When it dealt with abuse.
There was the one girl.
Kawaii you're talking about?
The blonde girl who, like, every time, like, she was accused of, like, you know, being part of it.
Crying and saying, why are you so horrible?
No,
Miki, yeah.
Well, every time she was accused of participating in the bullying, she would, like, start crying and, like, start, like, you know, refuting it. Like, no, I didn't do anything. Even though, like, she did participate, like, maybe not, like, outwardly, but, like, you know, she was going along with it.
Yeah, definitely. There's things that like they play into that kind of idea. There was the one girl in elementary school that like befriended her even though she was deaf and did all that stuff, and then ended up like she just couldn't take the isolation herself, and she left and she didn't stay in contact, and it kind of haunted her a bit and stuff. Like she talks about later that she'd always thought about her, but like it's the idea of like, you know, she's young and she wasn't able to deal with that. She took on more than she could chew, and then she just kind of abandoned it, you know? So it's just, yeah, it's like fascinating different types where you see like the kind of the mentality of bullying and what happens there, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I like that they never did a redemption for Kazuki, but they kind of showed that he also like had like a darkness that was kind of festering in him.
Yes.
That he couldn't deal with when they had like Shoya re-encountered him for like a brief moment. And it seemed like, oh, are they going to like address that and have him kind of, and it like, no, he's just like, he's too far gone kind of, you know?
Right. Yeah. He's not in it much.
A lot of interesting characters. Shoko is the deaf girl. Her sister, Yuzuru, is like a fascinating character too.
It's funny because like, it's funny because like when I first saw the character, I was like, that's a girl. And then they kept saying it was a boy. I was like, what? Well, okay, I guess it's anime. It does look awfully feminine, but it's anime, so I'll roll with it. And it's like, no surprise, it's a girl. I'm like, oh, okay.
You don't know age and gender until it's told to you in an anime.
Yeah, exactly. But that was the one thing.
They could have told me that Shoko's grandma was like one of their classmates, and because it's anime, I would have gone like, okay, I guess I have to accept that.
Yeah, I guess I just have to accept it. No, but she was an interesting character, especially like, you know, like being more outgoing, but like being intensely loyal and there for her sister, you know, and really going out of her way to like really help her sister. She was a fun character. I liked her.
Oh, I mean, in particular, it was her interactions, I think, with Shoya.
Yeah.
You know, when he was trying to, like, when she was, like, protecting her sister and he was, like, trying to get involved and, you know, like, just the kind of, like, weird interactions they had when she, like, ran away and he, like, found her and all these kind of, like, things that interacted with it. It was just a really interesting dynamic between a lot of these characters.
Yes.
I don't think I have too much more to say. Like, it's just a really good series. Like, anything else would just be repeating events rather than actually discussing them.
Right, yeah, exactly. And that's not what I want to do. I mean, I found it, like I said, I cried. It was really emotional. It's not something, if you're looking for light entertainment, it's not something to sit down and just put on. You have to, like, mentally prepare yourself if you're sensitive to issues of bullying, depression, and suicide, especially suicide. There's trigger warnings for that. Probably stay away if you're sensitive to that type of material. And, you know, that's what I'll say, but I'll say, like, it is good. It is really good.
So that is A Silent Voice. It is available on Netflix. Now we're going to move on to Will's pick. Tell us about your pick.
So my pick is Django Unchained. It's on Netflix and Paramount Plus. I picked this mainly because I'm a fan of Quentin Tarantino's films. I've watched most of them at this point. Mm-hmm. Most of the big ones that you could think of, Jackie Brown, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, you know,
Pulp Fiction,
Grindhouse. This is one of the ones I didn't get around to watching that I had been meaning to watch. There's a couple more too. I still haven't watched The Hateful Eight or like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I haven't seen yet.
I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I haven't seen Hateful Eight either.
Yeah. So I gotta get around to that. So this was one of those I didn't get around to. And when this came up, when you announced this theme for this podcast and you set me to the task of looking up like movies and also like trying to line it up with what is actually available on streaming.
That's always hard too.
Yeah, that's hard too.
Because you get your heart attached to something. You'll be like, oh, I really like this one. This is going to be a good one to pick. And then,
there were several.
There's no way to watch it really.
There were several. Like I want to check out Barton Fink, but it's not streaming anywhere. I'm like, and that's a Coen Brothers movie. Stars John Turturro. I've never seen it. Looks like it'd be really fun, but nope, it's non-streaming. So I couldn't pick it for this. That's why I picked Django Unchained. That's how I came to this decision. Nothing crazy, no interesting story behind it. Mm-hmm. Just something I hadn't seen that I want to see that's readily available for anybody listening here to go and watch if they have the service. But yeah, it's good. It has Jamie Foxx in the lead. Obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio plays the film's primary villain. Mm-hmm. It has
Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, I was just
He's excellent in this.
He's excellent in this as like the bounty hunter that adopts Django and like teaches him everything he knows, right?
Yeah. When I was watching this I watched this with my mom. I watched both of these with my mom. I said I was going to be watching these and I said, do you want to watch with me? And she said, yeah, sure. So we watched them. There was a certain point where I just said like, God, Christoph Waltz character, he's just like, it's so weird how like nonchalant he is.
Yeah,
he'll
right.
just like walk up, kill somebody and then go back to like order of business, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's kind of charming in a way. It's so like, it just kind of takes you off guard, you know?
Christoph Waltz's character in this is like freaking fantastic. Yeah, like you said, like he's eloquent, he uses words like most of the characters don't even like understand half the words he's saying. You know, and then he just like nonchalantly, you know, just murders them. He has like this gun that like this mechanism where the gun slides out of his sleeve and he just shoots them, which is really cool.
Yeah. I think the moment I was talking about was when he killed the sheriff in that town.
Yes.
It was just so like just kind of abrupt. And then he
because he walks into the bar with Django, you know, knowing what's going to happen, that the barkeeper's not going to approve of Django being there. And then he's like, I'm going to get the sheriff, and Christoph Waltz is like, yeah, go get the sheriff. We'll wait. You know? And then he's talking to Django, you know, like, and then like after a few minutes of dialogue, he's like, oh, yep, the sheriff is here right on time. And he just walks out there and shoots the sheriff dead. And then he's like, what? We're getting the marshal. He's like, yeah, go get the marshal. And then he's like, go get the marshal for me.
Not only does he clear it up with the marshal, and the marshal gets there that he actually had a warrant for him, but he said, oh, you owe me the money now.
Yeah. Oh, you owe me the money now. Yeah, exactly. Obviously, like, Django has, like, a real talent for it early on. Like, he has a good talent for shooting, which he finds out.
Great aim and fast, too.
Yeah, great aim and fast with it, too. And Jamie Foxx is fantastic in this. I really want to point out Samuel L. Jackson, because he has a great role in this. He's such an Uncle Tom. Yes, he plays such a bastard in this film. It's like, Jesus. And he does it, like, in that fantastic way that, like, only Samuel L. Jackson can do it, you know, like.
And you can tell Samuel L. Jackson hates his character.
Oh, yeah.
Just loathes his character that he's playing. Because of the way, how much he puts into making him loathsome tells you how much he himself loathes the character.
Oh, yeah. Because this man is real hateful.
I mean, he's a full Uncle Tom, you know?
Yeah, he's a full-on Uncle Tom. You know, but like a fantastic performance. Obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio's real good as the plantation owner there, Calvin Candy.
I think what's interesting about his character, and kind of just in general, a lot of like the kind of racist white characters in this movie, is that they play him off as like really stupid, but like with this like high opinion of themselves, and like they surround themselves with elegance to like elevate themselves, and then they just show their own stupidity.
They're all full of shit.
Yeah, right? And like when Calvin was first being introduced, the guy that was like bringing them to him was saying like, oh, he's obsessed with everything French and stuff.
Yes.
And Christoph Waltz like said something in French. He's like, oh, don't speak French around him.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually speak French, and he'll be embarrassed.
It'll embarrass him and piss him off.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't, he's like, he doesn't actually speak French. It'll embarrass him if you speak French around him.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
There's scenes like that I think that was one of my favorite
Well, there's
things.
like another scene too, right? Where like Christoph Waltz like pointed out he must be a fan of the Three Musketeers because he has on the shelf.
D'Artagnan.
He named his slave D'Artagnan and stuff. And then he's like, you know, the way you think Alexander Dumas would think about, you know, how you killed that slave. And he doesn't know. He's like, oh, you know, like he'd approve.
He's like, I take it you think he wouldn't approve or something?
Yeah. He's like, I take it you think he would approve it. And he's like, yeah, I don't think he would approve because he's black. You know, like, again, like another point to like how like kind of stupid Calvin Candy is. You know, like he surrounds himself with the aesthetics, but he doesn't understand. Like he's obsessed with like French culture to the point like he has novels and stuff by Alexander Dumas, but he doesn't like know anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, like so that's another point.
Yeah. There's stuff like that, not even just with that character, but like some of my favorite bits in this movie were like straight up comedy bits. Like one of my favorite parts is after they pissed off Don Johnson's character, a Big Daddy.
Oh,
and
God.
He came with like the Klan.
Like the Klan mask and like
and they couldn't see through their hoods. And they just had this whole talk about how they couldn't see, and the one guy whose like wife like made the hoods was like, "Why do I have to take this shit? I'm
leaving. Screw you guys."
So the last time I do anything for you. Yeah, and Jonah Hill's character is like
I like how Jonah Hill, I'm looking at like the cast here so that I can mostly remember names of everybody. I like how Jonah Hill's like cast, like his official character name in the casting list is Baghead number 2.
Yeah. He's just some unnamed fucking racist Klan member or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's really funny.
I also love the part with Don Johnson's character where when Schultz, Christoph Waltz's character, is telling him like, my servant here, he's a free man, so you have to treat him as such because he's a representative of me. So he's like you have to treat him as if you're treating a representative of me. And so he goes like, Don Johnson's character like calls out to like a slave girl down there, and he's like, you have to make sure not to treat him like a slave, you hear? And she's like, so you want me to treat him like a white man? He's like, no, not like a, and he's like kind of coming to a conundrum of like, well, how do you treat a black person if you don't treat him like a slave? And it's just the absurdity of the whole concept of slavery coming into play there and how stupid it is. And that's the joke.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. That's the joke. Yeah, exactly. That's the joke. It's absurd. You know, the conclusion he comes to is to treat him like some dopey, like town idiot that nobody likes.
Yeah.
You know, because like, it's
he's not black, but
he's not black, but nobody likes him. So yeah, that's the solution he comes to. It's like, it's so dumb.
I liked this movie. I will say, though, I do have a complaint about this movie. Okay. And I think this applies to, like, a lot of Quentin Tarantino's later films. Like, if you get his films from, like, the 90s to, like, the early 2000s, this is not something you see in his movies, but you see it later on. Where they go from being about 2 hours, 10 minutes to, like, 3 hours.
This is almost 3 hours.
It's bloated.
Yeah,
this movie needs cuts.
Yes, it's bloated. Funny enough, even though, like, that may be true, it did seem to go by pretty quick for me, you know, so it wasn't like I was sitting there like tapping my foot waiting for it to end at one point, because like the individual scenes, you know, like are entertaining. The movie's entertaining throughout, but yeah, it is like 3 hours. They could have cut some stuff from it and got the running time down. And there's like a lot of dialogue. Tarantino's films tend to be dialogue heavy. Mm-hmm. So that's another issue, you know?
Yeah. But I think like between the scenes with Don Johnson's character and the scenes with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, between those two parts, there's like a good hour of just like mostly filler.
Right.
Like there's like little bits here and there that are relevant and interesting. Like when he kills the one gang leader in front of his son.
Yes.
You know, because they have the bounty for him.
That's kind of that was kind of like Dr. Schultz, like teaching Django, they're bounty hunters, they have to be merciless. Yeah. You know.
There's like there's little moments like that within about an hour of material there. But they're very few and far between, and they're very short bits. And it's just kind of like, ooh, it's just too long. Like I really feel like that film needed to be cut. Like it needed cuts made to it. It needed to be at least a half hour trimmed off that movie. Because you said you didn't really have many moments like that. Like in the middle, like I said, between the parts with Big Daddy and Calvin, between those two characters, there were parts where I was just like completely checking out. I just was like completely losing interest. And then, you know, then Calvin shows up and it's like, okay, it's interesting again, you know?
Like all Tarantino movies, this movie's filled with Tarantino regulars.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah. Yeah, you got Samuel L. Jackson, obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio, Walton Goggins, Kurt Russell.
I think this is Christoph Waltz's second movie with Tarantino.
Christoph Waltz, yeah, because he was in the World War II one. Inglourious Bastards, yeah.
Yeah, Don Johnson. I'm not sure if he showed up in other stuff I don't know if he's in anything else with Tarantino, but he's very much like the kind of actor Tarantino would put in a movie.
Yes.
Like reviving a 1980s star kind of thing, like how he did with Travolta in Pulp Fiction. Well, he's always going to have a Don Johnson, a Travolta, a something like that. One of those like big stars from the 70s and 80s. Tarantino always likes to add one of those. You can tell the eras he liked.
Yeah, you can tell the eras he liked. Yeah, as a fan.
We have Walton Goggins in it, and somewhat
Walton Goggins. Yeah, it's a small role. Not as small as some people's roles. Jonah Hill's like, you know, got
2 lines of dialogue or something.
Yeah, basically a cameo. I'm looking at the cast. There are people in here like I don't even remember being in the movie. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like who was he?
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
Yeah,
he must have been some racist cowboy somewhere.
Somewhere. Yeah, like it's crazy. But yeah, I enjoyed the movie. The movie, like I said, it was swift pace. It was full of action. Jamie Foxx gets a lot of cool shit to do in this movie.
And I'm good on the N-word for about another like 6 decades.
Yeah, same.
Like, same. I really don't need to hear that anymore.
not the best part of the movie. But
I told you when I was watching it, before you had started watching it, I'm like, the movie's already super disturbing. I saw Harvey Weinstein's name.
Yeah, it was produced by the Weinstein Company.
This is a pre-Me Too movie, so.
Yeah, Harvey Weinstein produced all of Quentin Tarantino's films up until, like the Me Too stuff came out, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think, is the first film that was not produced by Harvey Weinstein. So
yeah, I think there was a dispute on Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
I think like Hateful Eight was around when it was happening, and Tarantino was trying to get Weinstein's name off of it. And I don't know if he succeeded or not because I haven't seen that movie, but
yeah, I don't know anything about that, to be honest.
yeah, but this was definitely pre-Me Too. And, so yeah, you see his name, you see his company name blazoned. It's the first thing you see when the movie starts. And then you see his name and it's kind of like, I joke though. I mean, it's like, it's not, he's just a producer. He's just gonna have his name on something.
Yeah, he just got, it's not like he shows up in a movie or anything.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, like if you go watch the English dub of Princess Mononoke, it's going to have Harvey Weinstein's freaking name on it.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but, it's like...
You have that with anything that's all about...
Doesn't kill the movie for me,
I watched some YouTube video of somebody reacting to Seven for the first time, and you see Kevin Spacey, and it's like... Ugh.
Yeah. It's just, you have to accept that.
Yeah, it's just, they didn't know at the time,
Media's gonna be, older media's gonna be full of, it's gonna...
Horrible people.
I mean, these people were, like, these people did things in Hollywood, like, there's no escaping that if you want to go back and watch some of the stuff. You can't be like, oh, no, I'm not watching anything that had any involvement from somebody problematic. But, like, I think that's such a large swath of entertainment at this point.
Yeah. I think my personal philosophy is like, and it's not even necessarily like a point of protest that I'm making specifically, but it's like, I don't think I could watch something with somebody horribly objectionable if they're the lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I couldn't go back and watch Ghost Dad,
No, Ghost Dad would not be a fun movie knowing what we know now. No.
Yeah, exactly. But like I could watch like, for example, Naked Gun, which has O.J. Simpson in it,
Oh yeah, because it's a small part. It's not really a significant role in the film,
Yeah. Like Kevin Spacey's a tricky one. Like I probably couldn't go back and watch American Beauty, but I was able to like rewatch the bits of like Seven that I saw in that one video.
Yeah. I guess it depends on the film. I don't know. I mean, there's no hard rule for it to be. I mean, I just try not to think about that. Like I wouldn't support anything Kevin Spacey would do now.
Yeah.
Like if they cast him in something, I would not go and watch that.
Yeah. That's why I didn't watch that Father Stew movie or whatever it's called. With Mel Gibson,
Right, yeah. But this is getting off topic, really.
Yeah, let's get back to Django Unchained. So how do you feel having watched it now? Your long-held regret has finally been lifted from your shoulders.
Finally lifted from my shoulders. I feel fine. I enjoyed it. It was I enjoyed it. It was a very Quentin Tarantino movie through and through. Mm-hmm. It had all the hallmarks. It had excessive swearing, violence, a lot of dialogue.
Violence was crazy, man.
Violence galore. People were
the blood was like sloppy. It was like
and
very wet.
And it had and it was full of eccentric characters,
Yeah. I also like that he did some cool stuff like in the flashback scenes, they used like some kind of a bleach wash on the film.
Yeah.
Like technique, and it gave it this really weird kind of look to it for those scenes. That was kind of cool too. I like that Quentin Tarantino's the kind of guy that would do shit like that,
I was sad when Christoph Waltz's character died.
I liked the way he went out, though. I liked that he killed him.
He kills Calvin Candy, knowing that, the other guy is just gonna shoot him.
Kills him so quickly that Candy doesn't even realize it's happened until he's, basically on death's door. And I love that he looked over at Jamie Foxx's character and said, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist,
Right,
He took responsibility for basically making it harder on him,
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I dug that, yeah. Like I said that the middle of the movie drags, and I stand by that. I really think that happens a lot of times with really kind of auteur directors where if they go a certain length of time without anybody pushing back against them, they just start overindulging themselves.
Right.
And I really wish somebody in Quentin Tarantino's ear said, do we really need this 30 minutes here? I think the movie would be better for it, but I'm really happy I did see it, and the good far outweighs the issues I had with the pacing and stuff towards the middle,
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think? Overall thoughts? I
really dug it. Like I said, I think the most surprising for me was the comedic bits were really kind of surprised me a bit. I was it would go on for these really long bits and I'd be cracking up.
There's some parts where it's almost like a parody, right?
Yeah. Like again, with all the Klansmen, when they were talking about the holes in the eyes. That scene went on for like 15 minutes. It was just pure comedy the whole time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was like a comedy bit. Yeah. It was like Quentin Tarantino was doing a sketch.
Yeah, it was like something you'd see. It would be like as if that movie didn't have any of that in it, okay? Yeah. And then when they were promoting the movie, Jamie Foxx was on SNL. And then SNL was making fun of the part where the Klansmen were coming up with the hoods and did a sketch. Like, that's what it's like. It's like as if the sketch is just inserted in there about the movie, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly.
I think that's what I ended up liking most about the movie was parts like that, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really dug it. I'm happy we watched it.
Nice. All right.
That's it for our Advocates of Great Entertainment segments. And that's it for the show. So next week we are going to be talking about, we're for sure going to be talking about The Boys, the first 4 episodes.
Boys.
I think maybe we should also talk about Ms. Marvel.
I think we might be able to do that.
I think that's a good one. We can also do Ms. Marvel and talk about, because part of the discussion of Ms. Marvel is just going to be if we're going to cover more of it, you know?
Right, yeah.
So we'll talk about Ms. Marvel, and we can talk about it kind of briefly just to see what we feel about that and touch base. Okay. And then The Boys, of course. The first, I think it'll be 4 episodes by the time we do the next episode. So.
Yeah, it's going to be 4, because 4th episode, I think they air on Fridays. So, yeah.
And the first 3 came out already. So we would have done it this week, but we're doing Advocates. So we did Advocates. So that's a priority for us. So we'll do the 4 episodes of that next week. And that's going to be next week's show. So thank you everybody for listening. You can reach us at thetotallscreen.com. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. Check us out on our SoundCloud page. Like I said, leave us a comment on Twitter. Twitter's probably the easiest place to reach us. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about the show, about anything that we talked about. If you take offense to our thoughts about Django Unchained and you're like, that middle hour is the most integral part of the whole movie, then hit me up at Tyson Gifford.
Yeah.
hit up Will at Voxel Hero and say, you were right.
I was correct. Thank you. Thank you. I accept all insistence on me being correct.
Yes, but that's the way to reach us. So do that, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.